talk about TikTok because it's trending right now.
Yes.
It's a platform that maybe our audience uses or maybe is still uncertain how to use it in their business. But it's probably a bigger conversation what's going on with this U.S. bill that's passing or close to passing in an attempt to usher TikTok into American ownership and or out of the country effectively. Correct. What I don't fully get, but I'm trying to get my head wrapped around is this is really a battle of China versus the United States and what appears to be some homeland security issues. I don't fully have my head wrapped around what the exposure is, but maybe that'll get clearer as we talk about this today.
Yeah, well, let me just tee up some contextual stuff from Reuters, by the way. Headline reads in their article, U.S. House passes bill to force ByteDance, that's the company that owns TikTok, guys, to divest TikTok or face a ban. So the U.S. House of Representatives overwhelmingly passed a bill on last Wednesday, March 14th, that would give TikTok's Chinese ownership ByteDance about 6 months to divest the U.S. assets of the video app or face a ban in what they are calling the greatest threat to the app since the Trump administration. The bill passed 352 to 65 in a bipartisan vote, but it faces a more uncertain path in the Senate, where some favor a different approach to regulating foreign-owned apps, posing security concerns. The measure is the latest in a series of moves in Washington to respond to U.S. national security concerns about China, from connected vehicles to artificial intelligence to cranes at U.S. airports. This is a national security issue. The Senate must take this up and pass it. Steve Scalise said this of the TikTok ban. So it's passed through. Now we got the Senate having to make a decision on it. As you pointed out, it's being framed as an issue between like national security concerns with U.S. and China. But the question ultimately is, how do we think about this? Well, I think there's a couple sides, right? There's the side of many people have been using TikTok in their business.
Right.
So there's a lesson there on like diversification or not being too balanced. Some people have built their entire businesses on this platform. I think for me, the way I'm framing it up mentally is, why didn't it get banned before when Trump wanted to do it?
Well, we know why it's happening now.
Exactly. And I think that's the piece is like, well, why Trump tried to do this, but the House stood against him in doing it. And so now all of a sudden it's a matter of national security concern. And so,
yeah, I mean, in 2020, India imposed a ban on TikTok.
Correct.
And dozens of other Chinese apps. So that included like WeChat, right? Over privacy and security concerns, which I think is so hilarious coming from the United States government, right? Because they're like, privacy, security. But hey, can we get access to people's microphones on their phone so we can hear what they're talking about in case they're speaking out against us as the government? And so part of me is like, do they not like it because they don't have that access? They don't have control over Meta like they do over Meta, right? Or Google or something like that. So that's what it makes me think about. But I was trying to do, because I don't know enough about this involvement of the government into foreign multinational companies and their ownership and their presence here in the United States. So I was trying to do a little bit of research right now, which is coming up short probably because I don't know what to Google yet, but I'd be interested to know, how common is this idea of them, muddling in? Because we're one of the few countries, right, we'll allow a foreigner to buy our real estate. Isn't that crazy?
It's absolutely crazy.
We're like the only country in the world that'll allow us to do that. But God forbid you want to try to do business here.
Right.
So maybe these guys know. Do you guys know? What's that? The question is like, how often does the United States intervene into, foreign-owned companies who are doing business here in the United States?
I think in the case of TikTok, the situation is somewhat unprecedented.
Yeah. It's because of the data concerns, right?
Well,
Correct.
Well, that's something we were talking about offline where I was saying, like, granted, not knowing the exact verbiage of the bill, but does it lay a precedent for anyone else that's not even necessarily foreign owned, but operating a certain type of company to fall under the thumb of this bill, this legislation, if it in fact goes through? That would be something I'd be curious to know is, are you setting up potential American entrepreneurs to fall under the sword of this legislation also,
Interesting.
if you don't like them?
So maybe for a future episode, we'll spend some time reading the bill.
We
and
should
we'll bring that back here.
Guys, we should do that next week with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's actually go through that.
Yeah, it's interesting. What's the timeline? What do they think that'll happen at the end of this year? Is that what
So
they're
there's 6 months to, if it goes through the Senate, they have 6 months to divest it or be banned.
Wow.
So by the end of the year,
This Axios article,
Yeah.
the TikTok ban timeline was pretty great. We should throw it in the show notes.
absolutely. Yeah, Axios put out an article, guys, where they walk you through like the timeline of how we got up to this point.
Right.
And so it'll-
Trump was the originator of this idea.
Yeah, I think just to say it, like one of the things that TikTok, like an X, has become a platform for, though, is people sharing perspectives that are contrary to mainstream media
Mm.
in matters of business, technology, and politics.
And it does have this viral network effects that they
100%.
have no control over.
They
Right.
have no control over.
And if you control the media, then you control the narrative.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a slippery slope that we could potentially be on, given, as Cole pointed out, it's unprecedented. And so next week we'll dig into that. If you have some thoughts on this when we put this out in some context, please share them in the comments.
Drop them in the comments. Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
let
try
us
to
know.
respond and dig deeper so we can be more educated.